All right, how about some 49ers morning YouTube live action? We don't get to do this too often, but today is a good chance because I have to head out to practice today after 53-man cut down day, and I have to go swimming here in a little bit. So I have a lot to do. You're going to hear from me again, whether it be on here or on Twitter, on The Athletic, later today after we get to talk to Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch following the roster cut downs. But first, there's still some housekeeping to do after the 49ers cut down to 53 players yesterday, and they're about to go back up to 69 players today with the 16-person practice squad being formed. So it's time to talk about some of the financial dynamics here because this has been in the works for a long time. The 49ers, to get the roster that they have had to bend over backwards financially to fit under the salary cap. And the reason I like to talk about this is because we've known the 49ers' plans, or at least had a very strong indication of what they wanted to do at some of the most important positions, like quarterback with Jimmy Garoppolo, if we had been following the money. And of course, I've been following the money. Anybody who reads me in Athletic, anybody who follows me on Twitter, or anybody that watches me on here knows that these kind of spreadsheets just to my left are a big thing because it started. I have three main spreadsheets that I run now, right? I have the 49ers roster spreadsheet. I ran the one during training camp, tracking the quarterback accuracy just to hold some people accountable, make sure that we had the facts there, that it was accurate, and we tracked every practice, and we got that out there. That was the spreadsheet that got the most traction. But of course, it all started with the one that you see right here. This is the 49ers salary cap spreadsheet. It was very hard to track how much the 49ers roster would cost during the offseason because that's a 90-man roster. In some cases, an 80-man roster after they cut down a few spots. But all of those are off-season rosters. The 53-man roster is different, and the 53-man roster is typically pricier than off-season rosters because there is no more top 51 rule, right? So before the regular season starts, only the 51 most expensive contracts cost against the salary cap. But once you cut down to 53 players, there are no exceptions. All 53 guys cost against the salary cap, and all injured guys cost against the salary cap. And you can't release injured guys, right? You can't release them penalty free. Some guys you can release with injury settlements. You can waive some players and hope that, if you put the injury designation on them, then another team might pick them up and relieve you of the costs. But normally that doesn't happen because other teams don't want to pick up damaged goods. So you have a situation in which you have to pay for everything as an NFL team during the course of the regular season. This means that you have to create a roster with contracts that fit under the salary cap and still leaves room for the potential of injuries and for the potential of needing to sign players to take the spot of injured players during the course of the season. To give you an idea of what happened last year for the 49ers, they had so many guys hurt that they needed to spend more than $10 million within the course of the season just to replace their injured players. That's how expensive it became for the 49ers with no discount on the other end, right? The guys that got hurt, like Ziggy Ansah, he played, 10 snaps for the 49ers. Obviously, Nick Bosa got hurt. The 49ers still had to pay all those players who did not play for them for the majority of the 2020 season. So injuries are costly, and teams have to budget, and they have to create a 53-man roster that fits under the salary cap. And what the 49ers did this year throughout a whole offseason of work is truly remarkable because it's been giving us guideposts the whole way. Their work on this has shown us what they want to do in their big picture plan throughout this entire, often confusing, chaotic year. Without further ado, here's the original spreadsheet, the salary cap spreadsheet. This thing right here, which you can access at the link that I am sending out into the comment section, automatically calculates players' salaries and subtracts them from the total 49ers adjusted cap size. So you can see here, the 49ers have $196.9 million to spend. The roster that they put together yesterday, including everything, I'm talking about all 53 players that are now on the active roster. I'm talking about all players who are either on injured reserve or the physically unable to perform, the PUP list. And I'm talking dead money, the players who the 49ers still owe some salary cap commitments to from years prior. All of those players add up to $195.98 million in total liabilities. So the 49ers are just $0.96 million against the salary cap. They barely squeezed under the cap. Less than $1 million right now, given all of this. You can see all the dead money down here. Oh, and I'm also counting the practice squad, which the 49ers are going to start filling today. The practice squad has 16 players. They have designated, predetermined salaries, and it's going to cost over $3 million to fill the practice squad. So with all that considered, the 49ers are just $1 million under the cap. They have bent over backwards, squeezed a square peg through a round hole. They've done everything that they possibly can to fit barely under that salary cap, which I think is extremely impressive. And it's shown us how much they value the two quarterback room, right? The 49ers wanted to fit both Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance in the quarterback room. And the reason that we knew that they weren't bluffing is because of this sheet right here, because of all the work that they did to fit Garoppolo's $26.4 million into the overall salary cap situation. Guys, I'll be back in 1 second. I have to take care of something really quick here. All right, I'm back. So this is the salary cap situation for the 49ers right now. You have to fit Garoppolo's $26.4 million and Trey Lance's $6.2 million, and you see that they're just barely $1 million under the cap. So throughout the entire offseason, the 49ers were trying to piece together a roster that fit under the salary cap, right? So it's phenomenal here as you go through the individual contracts, how the 49ers were able to minimize some of these cap hits. Great examples are in the secondary here. Jaquiski Tartt has less than $1 million cap hit. He makes the 53-man roster. Tavon Wilson has less than $1 million cap hit. He makes the 53-man roster. Obviously, through the draft, you maximize efficiency. Talanoa Hufanga, $720,000 this year. It was really important to get some of these rookie DBs on the contract because, as you can see, every dollar has counted. Part of this is because of poor financial outcomes in the past. So if you go to the dead money section here, the 49ers on their cap are still paying Quan Alexander $6.9 million this year. They're still paying Dante Pettis $680,000 this year. Weston Richburg, unfortunately, because he had to retire, they're paying him $3.5 million this year. So the dead money is added up on the 49ers. The injuries have two. Jeff Wilson, he's not playing right now. He tore his meniscus. He's at a $2 million hit. It's not like you get a discount while a guy is hurt. So you go up and down through this roster. You look at some of the front loading and back loading tactics. It's mainly been back loading for the 49ers. Trent Williams, record contract for a tackle, only an $8.2 million cap hit this season. So this all goes on this spreadsheet. I mean, look at the entire receiver corps. 2.8, 0.9, which is 920,000, 920,000, 1.16, 660,000 for Jawan Jennings. By the way, carrying Jawan Jennings over Travis Benjamin saved the 49ers about $500,000 because Travis Benjamin's cap hit would have been over $1 million. So they release him. Jawan Jennings, better, younger, cheaper, $660,000. Why is that a big deal? Well, if you save $500,000 there and you only have $960,000 of space, that's half of the space. So the 49ers were able to save money throughout their 53-man roster throughout the year by A, focusing on draft picks, and B, focusing on backloaded or efficient contracts made so through veteran salary exceptions. And by veteran salary exceptions, I mean that the 49ers found veterans on one-year deals for the league minimum, where you can take a rule out of the NFL CBA and make the cap hit smaller than even the league minimum. So say that the salary is $1.075 million for the veteran league minimum. Some of these players have only $850,000 cap hits for the 49ers, and you could see how they got under the cap. Everybody could say hi to my grandma behind me. I'm watching over here today up in Shaver Lake before I head back to Santa Clara here in a few minutes. after I swim. She's 90 years old from the Czech Republic, and she's roaming there in the background. Anyway, I hope this gives you an idea of the mechanics of what Parag Marathe and the 49ers did. They had to fit this roster under the cap. There are still more challenges to come because, as I said, injuries are expensive. More guys are going to get hurt. More guys are going to have to get signed. You're going to have to find a way to maintain this $0.96 million buffer. One of the ways the 49ers can maybe create more money this year is to give Laken Tomlinson an extension. Move some of the money that you owe him on the cap this year back into future seasons. So if you give him an extension, I project that his cap hit drops from $6.6 million to $3.5 million. All of a sudden, boom, spreadsheet updates, $4.05 million in space. That might be enough to get the 49ers through the season. So that's just some of the ways, that's just one of the ways or many of the ways in which the dynamics of this all are going to work for the 49ers in the 2021 season. Financially, this was a huge part of roster building, and that building continues today with the practice squad. The practice squad has 16 spots, as you can see here, 6 for veterans, which will cost $252,000 each, and then 10 for players on rookie contracts or in the rookie contract time frame, which will cost about $160,000 each. Now, who can we expect on the practice squad? Well, here's a list of cuts from yesterday. Jonas Griffith was traded, but still cut from the roster. Senio Calamete, Josh Hokett, Simba Webster, Alexander Myers, Justin Hilliard, Nate Sudfeld, and Alfredo Gutierrez. Those are all players for whom the practice squad is likely. Now, I think it's likely for more than just those players, but this is what we've gleaned through our reporting, that the 49ers really want to bring these guys back. In the case of Gutierrez, he's not going to be one of the 16. He's the player from Mexico. That is the international exception, so he'll be player number 17. Doesn't count against the 16-man limit. The other guys, Nate Sudfeld, obviously, quarterback. You want him in there. He's your third quarterback, runs scout team, does all kinds of stuff that you need. So Sudfeld's going to be on the practice squad. In fact, the 49ers already paid him his $252,000 of guaranteed money in his contract. So the practice squad was Nate Sudfeld's floor. That's why we projected him to the practice squad, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Linebacker out of Ohio State, Justin Hilliard, really impressive in the preseason, especially because Jonas Griffith got traded. There is room for Justin Hilliard on the 49ers practice squad. Cornerback, Alexander Myers, 49ers also, they like that developmental project. They want him on the practice squad. And they want Simba Webster on the practice squad. This is important to note. The roster that you saw the 49ers come out with yesterday might have had some holes. They might be a little sketchy at punt returner. They might be a little, I criticize them. I think they're sketchy along the offensive line. I mean, if Tom Compton's making the team, that's a below average offensive lineman. I don't like the 49ers depth. There might be a little lack of speed in the receiver room. But yesterday was only the initial 53-man roster. Let's see how the 49ers answer the bell and continue building this team with the next 16 guys. Because so many of these guys, it's just like extended depth. With the new rules, you can call these guys up on a week-to-week basis. And I think Simba Webster, with his return ability, is a player that the 49ers want to get on that practice squad and maybe even on the 53-man roster on game days to be able to return some punts. Because Brandon Ayuk, bum hamstring right now, he is probably your best punt return option. I don't know how much the 49ers want to expose him to injury. Another guy they need for depth purposes, for sure, Josh Hokett, the fullback. If Kyle Juszczyk ever goes down, this offense, it's not going to be derailed, but it's going to take a very big blow because Juszczyk and that blocking is such an integral glue piece of what's going on. So you need Josh Hokett to be on that depth chart, and that depth chart includes the practice squad. So you have to hope that Josh Hokett and all these guys clear waivers today. We're going to find out later in the afternoon so the 49ers can re-sign them to their 16-player practice squad, which will cost about $3 million. It's all right here, and I could even go to my Twitter. It's all about filling extra depth on this team because there are positions where the 49ers were just woefully lacking, I think, or not woefully. Woefully is a strong word. There's positions where the 49ers are clearly lacking right now, and I'll show you right here what they are. At fullback, they need insulation for Juszczyk through the practice squad. At wide receiver, they need a speed weapon who can also return punts. At tight end, they need another blocking piece for certain formations because they only have 3 tight ends on that 53. And on offensive line, they need some more quality depth. That is the big, big issue that I'm going to make a separate YouTube live about, and that our podcast, Here's the Catch, is already talking about. So go and listen to the podcast right now. And at cornerback, more insulation is always welcome. Other spots, yes, the 49ers might pick up some defensive linemen. We might see Alex Baird, Eddie Yarborough, if the 49ers are lucky enough to have those 2 players not poached by other teams. We might see them on the practice squad because you can never have too many defensive linemen. But those would be more developmental projects because the 49ers already are very deep at that position. So these are the 5 right here: fullback, wide receiver, tight end, offensive line, and cornerback, where the 49ers need to deepen themselves through the practice squad. The 53-man roster was only the beginning. This is about the 69-man roster, adding 16 guys today and whenever to the practice squad to make this team fully insulated against the problems of attrition that will certainly be coming. All right. Thanks to everybody. We will talk to you soon. I've got to get into the lake and then hit the road. Hope that you enjoyed our morning version of 49ers YouTube Live. Take care.